Natural news that the federal government is moving now to take control over grocery distribution, is moving to classify as critical national infrastructure large privately owned Walmart, Kroger, Costco, Target, these huge grocery chains that have the infrastructure to support rationing and take control over these things. So rather than actually, let's just read the article. The government federally is in the planning stages of implementing a plan to protect and control grocery distribution across the U.S. via public-private partnerships. This is exactly what was described in Event 201, with large companies working with the government. Top grocery chains such as Walmart, Kroger, H-E-B, Target, Costco efforts are underway to ensure the smooth delivery of food supplies to the public as the virus lockdown is about to commence on a regional basis, and food supplies are necessary to prevent social unrest, lawlessness, and looting. The plan is in the final stages of being completed, and some measures of this rollout could begin as early as this week in at least one region of the country. Trump, quote, is working day and night to coordinate a response that keeps the American people fully supplied with food, medicine, water, and security. This plan will be implemented with no advance warning to the public. This will be all you hear about it before it goes into effect. Pence is apparently working with pharmaceutical companies as well to rapidly accelerate critical drug manufacturing, because as we've been covering here, we get 97% of our antibiotics from China, and those aren't flowing right now. And that's a disaster if we're not able to have basic medical care. The president prefers, this is what I was alluding to earlier, public-private partnerships leveraging existing distribution infrastructure rather than just taking over everything and running it themselves. The federal government is, via executive order, designating these grocery outlets as critical infrastructure, which will allow the government to oversee food distribution and food security for the nation. It's possible, this is conjecture, I want to call out very clearly, articulate that this is not baked in the stone yet. It's possible that this EXO will also designate long-haul trucking as a critical infrastructure as well. In other words, also the distribution. And it might even prioritize trucking and transport operations to keep food, fuel, and medicine and other supplies flowing. In other words, they're doing just what Texas is doing and making sure that they have the ability to keep food moving. The National Guard will be ordered to begin protecting food distribution hubs and truck routes. This plan may even include escort vehicles to shadow the trucks and ensure security so that no one can pull these food-bearing trucks over and steal it. There's talk, again, this is talk, not an active decision, that the public might not even be able to enter grocery stores, that they would set up drive-through systems where you get pre-packaged little grocery kits. Here's your rations for the week, which contain pre-selected basics, eggs, milk, ground beef, bags of rice. Just like in World War II, the rationing cards, where you got only what you were allowed to get and nothing more. It wasn't the price of the goods that was the problem. It was that you were rationed. These would be offered at a fixed price and fixed quantities with strict limits on the available purchases per person. We've been covering this for years, the crop losses, and now the results of what's going on. Strict limits will also be placed at a federal level on grocery items. These limits will apply to ground beef, water, eggs, rice, milk, canned soups, bread, powdered milk, and then personal hygiene and baby care items like diapers, toilet paper, bleach, sanitizing supplies, etc. Even basic pharmacy items like alcohol and hydrogen peroxide would be strictly rationed. Again, this may be activated within days.
So that was Ice Age Farmer warning us from this article back at March 15th, so a little over 2 weeks ago. National Guard to protect key distribution points. Trump National Guard has been sent to California. Governor Newsom here in California has activated the National Guard as well. National Guard's been activated across the country. And the news I'm bringing you right now is from an insider, someone that may know, and I have good reason to believe I'm interviewing her tomorrow. She's worked behind the scenes and she's been speaking out. And we have as little as 2 to 3 days to get ready before the national lockdown really gets into play, and no one out of their homes. You're not going to be able to go get groceries. You're not going to be able to, you'll have to go in these lines he's talking about if that even is to happen. But everything is going to be nationalized. This is just today. Cuomo calls the feds to nationalize medical supply chain for positives in New York. And this is just from the other day, 326. This is the British Labour leader, Britain. We should nationalize food delivery apps and turn them into public food service. Wow. Coordination on a world level, folks. This is all being done on a worldwide level. It's not country versus country. Look at how they're all coming up with the exact same means and start turning platforms like Uber Eats and Grubhub's into public service. And you can see the coordinated meme brought out here the other day. Workers protest as Instacart, which is they go shop and bring it to your home, Amazon and Whole Foods for health protections and hazard pay. So allegedly the workers there who are just happy to have a job since no one else has a job, they're complaining that it's a health hazard and for their protection, yada, yada. But this is just another term for nationalizing the entire system. So this is just the other day. Bill Gates calls for nationwide shutdown anywhere. It means shut down everywhere. This is from March 31st, just 3 days ago, calling for a nationwide shutdown. And what he means by shutdown, folks, is nobody goes anywhere. You're not even allowed to go out and ride your bike. Only essential, what I'm being told is by Sunday or starting Sunday, only essential personnel, medical, and police will be allowed on the roads. And again, look at their little numbers game. 6, 6, 5 plus 4 is 9. Inverted is 6, 6, 6. And here we see the Jesuit Fauci and we see the Jesuit Trump talking about urging nationwide stay-at-home order. I don't understand why that's not happening. Remember, they created a conflict between Trump and this guy, the infectious disease guy. Again, this is today they're saying this. So you had Gates say it, now it's being followed up. You can bet the hammer's about to come down now. And here we see that today they passed the 1 million person mark, allegedly have the coronavirus, yet they don't even have the test kits to do it, but somehow they got the $1 million number, and now we have the task force for the president projects 100,000 to 250,000 deaths in the U.S., even with mitigation efforts. 250,000 was the number that the national health guy from Congress projected about 3 weeks ago. And I think this was yesterday or today. Look at Fauci with his hands being folded. And here are these people, and look at this lady with her head hanging down. Listen to what the Trump Meister has to say, folks. Listen clearly, please.
To be prepared for the hard days that lie ahead. We're going to go through a very tough 2 weeks. And then hopefully, as the experts are predicting, as I think a lot of us are predicting after having studied it so hard, you're going to start seeing some real light at the end of the tunnel. But this is going to be a very painful, very, very painful 2 weeks. When you look and see at night the kind of death that's been caused by this.
Look at the lady to the right. Look at her breathing heavily in and out.
Governor Murphy of New Jersey say 29 people died today, meaning yesterday, and others talking about numbers far greater. But you get to know a state. I know New Jersey so well, and you hear 29 people and hundreds in other locations, hundreds in other states. And this is going to be a rough 2 week period. As a nation, we face a difficult few weeks as we approach that really important day when we're going to see things get better all of a sudden. And it's going to be like a burst of light, I really think and I hope. Our strength will be tested and our endurance will be tried. But America will answer with love and courage and ironclad resolve. This is the time for all Americans to come together and do our part.
And then you said just an hour ago that confirmed global cases passed 1 million. It's kind of their target market here, 1 million, and they're going to make masks. Everyone's going to tell everybody they're going to have to wear masks. But what they're masking is what Trump was talking about is the wave. What he's talking about is this article. This is from MIT Technology Review. We're not going back to normal. Social distancing, yada, yada, is here to stay. And as the good people at TrueStream Media showed, that these people that wrote this article were well connected back in March 17th, were well connected to the economists, to the Rothschilds, to the Rockefellers, MIT, Bill Gates. So this is their playbook. This is what they're planning, and this is what Trump's referring to. So the article goes into at MIT, 6 weeks of lockdown are beginning to ease, but it won't end there. As long as someone in the world has the virus, someone in the world, breakouts can and will keep recurring with stringent controls to contain them. In the report yesterday from the Imperial College of London, the same one where the professor had to dial down the number of deaths by some 85% because he got it so wrong. Doesn't matter. They're just putting it out the memes for you. Proposed a way of doing this, imposed more extreme social distancing measures every time admissions to ICUs start to spike, and relax them when they fall. So this is what they're saying here. It's March 20th to May 20th, so that's a month's period of time. So somewhere right around here in the next week or so in April, we're going to see a big spike up. Trump saying the next 1-2 weeks is going to be really difficult, saying 250,000 people are going to die in the United States. So is this the big spike he's referring to here, or is this the lockdown where everybody's going to be staying at home, not even being able to go out and shop for food or go out on a bike ride or anything else? The big lockdown is coming, folks, and this is what I'm saying, may come as early as this Sunday, maybe even sooner. That's what I'm being told. So, and then the wave would go down. Oh, see, it works. We locked you all down and it worked. And then we bring it down here in July. Look at how long that is before they let you back out. Everybody goes back to kind of normal. We get our food supply lines, and then all of a sudden it peaks again. We go back into quarantine, lockdown, peaks again. This is their playbook, and they're going to wear us out. Those of us that are able are going to get past the next few weeks of not having any food and not being able to get anything if what's happening around the world comes here. Let's take a look. And now we're seeing the second wave of coronavirus lockdowns return to China, shattering the narrative that has it all under control. Gee, problem, reaction, solution. April 1st. This is from yesterday, okay? So now China's going through another round, and they're going to have more stringent lockdowns. And folks, this is what I'm referring to. This article, again, was in the New York Times yesterday in the hard paper today. India's laborers, coronavirus lockdown, small little country India, they're living hand to mouth, but no choice to be hitting the streets. Vendors can't sell their food because people can't go out to get the food. They're under complete lockdown. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has ordered a lockdown. We're all using the same language, folks. One world order. Of India's 1.3 billion citizens, urging people to distance themselves. Distancing means hunger for many in India, with a workforce dependent on manual labor. I showed you that in Europe they're having troubles because their pickers coming from Romania and other European countries, Eastern European countries, can't get in anymore, so they're not going to be able to pick the crops. About 80% of India's 470 million workers, all right, are going hungry. We asked people how are they making ends meet. India reported 27 dead. But look at what they're saying here, folks, in these articles. On a good day, this is a guy who makes $6 a day. On a good day, he can make up to 450 rupees. He lives out of his garage and he rents his rickshaw from and worries that he'll be evicted soon. He has had no customers since the lockdown. If you don't have a house, how can you work from home? My home is my work. Today is the first time in my life I had to accept food from a charity. I'm not worried about Corona. If Corona gets to me, at least this life of misery will be over. This person, Bagagira, I've never seen this panic in my entire life. Walking barefoot along Delhi's deserted streets, his saffron-colored clothes stained and battered. Bagheri said he had not eaten in 2 days. A sadhu, a religious ascetic, he makes about $1.50 every day by offering prayers to people on the streets. He has never gone hungry a day in his life and always found a meal in Hindu temples or gurdwaras, chic palaces of worship, but they have closed. While he agreed with the Prime Minister's decision, yada, yada, I do not have a house to practice social distancing. I just go from place to place, temple to temple, but the entire city is closed. We were still able to feed ourselves before and find shelter. I've never seen this panic in my entire life. They need people like us. Fruit seller. Every morning, Singe and his father pile their carts with fruit on a busy neighborhood. Although their jobs are deemed necessary and permissible, they say customers are too afraid to come to their carts. By mid-morning, they had served over one customer. They're afraid of the disease. We will die in our homes. He's worried the government is going to help big business, although the government announced a $22 billion relief package. And then this water deliverer here. If we stay at home, my family goes hungry and India goes thirsty. Many Indian homes lack running water safe enough to drink, making Shahon's job a necessity during the lockdown. He zipped across Delhi on his moped with water bottles. If we stay at home, my family goes hungry and India goes thirsty. Since the lockdown, Mr. Chauhan has seen his daily earnings about $8 cut in half. He said he'd been unable to reach all his customers because the police had prevented him from deliveries and even beat him from being on the streets, although under lockdown rules. Deliveries of necessary items like medicine and water are supposed to be allowed. Again, 3-week total lockdown. Not just a lockdown, total lockdown. Police will beat you if you're seen in the streets. Coming to USA Inc., folks? And again, they're calling it the new wave of viruses. Should worry the world here. In Taiwan, a man who traveled to Asia was fined $33,000. There's that number for going out to a nightclub. In Hong Kong, a 13-year-old girl was spotted at a restaurant wearing a tracking bracelet to monitor those in quarantine and subsequently shamed online. South Korea, which has been praised globally for flattening the curve quickly after an early explosive peak in infections, required travelers from some countries to quarantine. This week expanded the list to cover the entire world. You fly to another country, you go into quarantine, folks. That's what they're planning. Citizens who do return to Asia are put under strict surveillance as they serve out their time in quarantine. Asia. Small little continent called Asia. You're going to be put under strict surveillance. In some cases, the governments are using the tools of criminal injustice to enforce them. Students that capitulate rushed back from Europe and the United States. Official warned that a new wave imported from cases was beginning to strain hospitals. During a 14-day quarantine at home, they wear tracking bracelets and their movements are monitored by smartphone apps. Mrs. Lamb said that more than 200,000 people were currently being quarantined at home. Technology is a key tool for enforcing quarantines. In China, 14 days they spend 14 days in a government-assigned hotels and send their temperatures daily to neighborhood committees on WeChat, a messaging service. In Taiwan, the government uses location tracking on mobile phones and adds some old-fashioned police shoe leather. Officers visit people at home if they leave or turn off their phones. And for those of you who don't think it's coming home to roost here in the Americas, an official at WHO coronavirus app will be a Waze for the COVID-19. Get it? Waves and Waze, how they're playing with these names here. Check this out. A group of doctors and engineers, yeah, right, have come together to create an app that will answer questions. Who's leading the charge says this group has gotten the green light from WHO to build the open source app, and it will be an official WHO app to help people around the world, the official name of the illness caused by the virus. We're putting together a SWAT team of tech Avengers, military terms. Kraft described the app as a Waze for COVID-19, providing navigation advice not for the roads, but instead for people. His goal is to have the app provided hyper-local information for people and to provide feedback to public health officials. Since smartphones maintain a GPS history of the user's location, they're uniquely suited for contact tracing, in which public health officials determine whom an affected person has been in contact with. The WHO app would similarly rely on people agreeing to share their data. He describes her approach as privacy-centric. Yeah, right. Kraft, who serves as the chair of the medicine for the education company Singularity University, has put out calls for collaborators over the past few weeks. Chief data scientist for Microsoft, former engineer at Google, MIT professor, They're still seeking volunteers for the WHO COVID App Collective. Interested engineers can sign up and contribute to the open source project on GitHub. And here you can see Google, back in July, was working on owned Waze expands carpooling feature. You know, they bring it to you as a consumer product, and then it becomes militarized. And here you can see Google's updated new Waze feature comes in handy. Just happens to be ready just at the time they need it. Whenever drivers use keywords like COVID or coronavirus, Waze automatically searches its database for the nearest hospital that can accommodate patients. Waze then provides navigation instructions to reach the hospital in the most efficient way. You can totally see how this can be used during the great lockdown to come possibly as early as this weekend. You remember the original starting the story about the natural news talking about ramping up the National Guard. Well, you ask the question, how are they going to keep 320 million people in when the food's not showing up and not leaving outside and not being able to go out and seek food anywhere they can because they've been home now for weeks or two? Trump said next 1 to 2 weeks will be really tough. How would the National Guard be able to block all the roads and people from not doing that? Many of you may know the answer, but take a look at this. And you guessed it. Send in the drones. The Federal Administration Aeronautical Information number of U.S. drones will triple by 2020. This was written in 2016. Drones will represent the most dynamic growth sector within aviation. It predicts 7 million of the unmanned crafts flying through American skies within the next 4 years, tripling the number expected. Now you know what Pence was talking about with the Space Force. This is what he's referring to. Unmanned aircraft systems with the most dynamic growth sector. Some 2.5 million drones were in use by 2016, and they're going up to 7 million. They'll be monitoring everything we do. You'll have your WhatsApp, your Corona Wave app, and they'll be locking everybody down if what's happening around the rest of the world is coming to the United States and England, which is definitely appears that is going to happen very shortly. And this is my YouTube channel that you're watching this on. And I've started, this is just from 2 months ago, and it could spiral out of control very quickly. I'm sorry I'd have to be the downer of all this, but better to be prepped and prepared. I'd rather see what's coming at me than just be surprised by what's happening. So that's why I'm bringing this to you today. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm being told this by someone who worked deep into the Department of Homeland Security and deep into FEMA, who I'll be interviewing tomorrow. And she'll be vetting this out as well with me, and we'll be talking more about it. But I just wanted to give you a heads up today. And so if the times get crazy, whatever, you're just going to need to stay home, and you're going to have enough food to get through this. So make sure you go to the stores, top it off. They're talking about Costco and other places not having nearly as long of lines. But you remember what happened in Rwanda with the Operation Crimson Mist by the CIA when they sprayed the Houthi and the other tribes and people went crazy on one another due to aerosol injections in the sky, which changed the emotional state of the people below. Do you remember what they did with spraying lithium and the federal government protest up in Oregon with Lavoy Finicum, who got killed up there? They were spraying the people with lithium to calm them down. They can excite, they can agitate. That's what happened in the Arab Spring when they agitated the Egyptians when they were protesting. They made them angry, and they allegedly raped the 60 Minutes gal, Laura, whatever her name was, on the show. And, they can change the moods of people. So just so your heads up. So this was just 2 months ago. We started, with this whole journey here, and I started covering the lockdown. China is getting locked down, fumigating China. I started covering the coronavirus with the CRISPR gene-edited virus, and how Gates, this was all planned back, the pandemic. We chronicled back in October 18th, when they did the pandemic dry runs. But this is happening in real time. It's going to be really hard for people to understand. We've got a soft lockdown where you can still go out, you can still go to the store. They've closed down all the hills around here. They've closed down the parks, so you can't go in the parks. They can't go into the playgrounds and get out and get going. But just, we've been through this journey now, those of you who've been following this, and now's the time to really get yourself prepped and prepared. Top off your food supplies. Just you may not be able to go out. You may not want to go out. They may make it so difficult for anybody going out, and people are getting hungry and whatnot, and it could get very ugly. It could get very difficult. And to think that it's happening in India and the government is agreeing to having these people starve, and they're doing a next wave of viruses coming, this is not going to end. So those that fail to prepare to be hungry. But I just wanted to get this out to y'all, folks, because this is real. It's in real time, and I'll share more in my interview tomorrow, as I said, with this insider who's worked deep inside the government agencies and knows quite a bit, knows a ton. I talked to her today for about an hour and a half about this, and I look forward to sharing what she's going to be sharing with you probably tomorrow or the next day. All right, thanks for listening. Share this with everybody and loved ones, folks. Thanks. Peace.